Evening, everybody, and welcome to the council meeting of May 2024. Wodonga Council acknowledges Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people as the first inhabitants of the country and as traditional custodians of the land. We respect their ancestors, elders and young people and recognise their continuous connections to lands, waters and communities across the country. Item number 2, apologies, request for leave of absence and request to attend by electronic means. We have no apologies, but we do have a request for leave from Councillor Simpendorfer. Do I have a motion in relation to the request for leave? As per rec. Seconder?
The request was from the 13th of May, and so it will have to be from today's date.
Seconder? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lowe. Councillor Poulton or Councillor Lowe, do you wish to make any comments? No? Nobody else wish to speak against the motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Quilty, Councillor Mildren, Councillor Hall, Councillor Poulton, Councillor Lowe. For. Those against? Councillor Chamberlain. The motion is carried. Councillor Poulton.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I applied for this leave probably several months ago now. I think it was late last year. I just need to make an adjustment. It was originally from the 24th of June through until the 29th of July. Just wanted to move that I bring those dates forward by 1 week. So it'll be actually the 17th of June inclusive till the 22nd of July. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillors, do I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Chamberlain. Seconder. Councillor Lowe. No debate. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 3, declaration by councillors of any conflict of interest. Do we have any conflicts tonight, councillors? There being no conflicts, we move on to confirmation of the minutes from previous meeting. Do I have a motion in relation to the minutes? Councillor Hall. Councillor Lowe. Councillor Hall, do you wish to? No other comment? I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Mr. CEO, item number 5 is question time. I believe we have a question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have a question from Reagan O'Donnell about parking inspector near schools and parking infringement. The summary of the question is council acting appropriately with the issuing of fines, firstly in and around school zone and secondly in loading zone? The response to that question is in relation to parking inspector near schools. Council conducts regular parking enforcement near schools and school crossings. Our parking officers aim to achieve a balance between education and enforcement and more often educate community members who park illegally in school zones. However, in some circumstances, infringements are issued. Officers utilise mobile phones equipped with a camera to document parking violations, which requires proof of evidence. Council makes no apologies for enforcing the traffic rules around schools, as it is a matter of children's safety. For parking infringements, the second question concerns a specific parking infringement. Parking infringements are dealt with in accordance with the requirements of the Infringements Act 2006. The details of this particular case will not be addressed in this public forum. However, Council has recently completed a service review for enforcement, and wherever an offender believes they have a case, there are options available to dispute the matter by requesting a review or pursuing appeal rights. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Next item is item 6, petitions, of which there are none. Item 7, delegates' reports, of which there are none. Item 8, reports for determination. Do I have a motion, Councillor Chamberlain?
I'd like to move a procedural motion to move item 8.6 to the beginning of this segment, so we can have the people, or hear the people wishing to talk, and so they don't have to sit through all the other stuff they may not wish to. Thank you.
Councillor Chamberlain, is that as recommended in the report?
Just moving 8.6 forward.
As recommended?
Just moving it forward, you have to have a procedural motion.
Yes, okay. Okay. All right, I put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. I believe we have a video to display and that we need a moment to set it up. So I'd like to have a motion to move to adjourn for a few moments while we set the video up. Councillor Lowe, Councillor Chamberlain, unanimous. Thank you.
Hi councillors, it's Matt Leeworthy here from Hadar Projects, and I really want to thank you for the opportunity to discuss 44 William Street today. As we all know, Australia is currently in a housing crisis, with affordable housing being front and centre. This project provides high levels of fixtures and finishes, including upgraded facades, artificial turf, and low maintenance gardens. Internally, we've included floor-to-ceiling tiles in the en-suites and high-quality kitchens and fixtures and fittings throughout. This central Wodonga development provides self-contained apartments in the city's CBD. Although we've included high levels of fixtures and finishes and focus on quality design, this project will provide much-needed affordable housing in Wodonga's CBD. This project will provide one-bedroom units available for rent under $300 per week. The Victorian government acknowledges the housing shortage and a lack of affordable homes in the market at the moment. And to cater for this, they've changed the planning scheme, including clause 52.23, stating that a rooming house can be built up to 9 bedrooms without a planning permit. However, the owner didn't want to build a stock standard rooming house. We wanted to build something that was far superior by making self-contained apartments in Wodonga's CBD. We've been working with council for several months on creating a design that is far superior than a rooming house. And the owner feels passionate that he wants to do his part to create affordable housing for the community. If this project doesn't get approved, then we're going to be forced to build a rooming house, what we feel is far worse off than what we're proposing at the moment. If council members today were to vote against this project, they'd be voting against the very thing that the state government is trying to incentivise and encourage. Projects like this really should be encouraged by council and supported so that we can bring balance back to the region and create diversity of housing in the community. You know, for me personally, I've seen all in the headlines that everyone's talking about affordable housing. And I think that projects like this, if council can't get behind and back projects like this, then really it's all just froth and bubble and people just aren't talking the truth, because we need council to back us to do projects like this so that we can create more affordable stock for the community and for our region. So I'm really interested to see what happens out of today's meeting. I want to thank you for everyone involved. Council has been fantastic with this and they've really helped us out, and I really appreciate everyone's help. Thanks guys, have a great day.
Thank Matt for his presentation. Mr. CEO, to organise the other presenters tonight, please.
The first presenter is Henry Crawford. Do you want to come up to the table, Henry? Thank you.
I'm not used to talking on microphone, so you'll have to bear with me. Mayor and councillors, thank you for this opportunity to speak to my objections re the development of 44 William Street. I and others have submitted to council and to each of you our objections to this proposal. I assume that you've read these, so I do not intend to go into all that detail again. I have been disappointed to find that this development review process has been very much biased in favour of the developer and against local residents. At the so-called mediation meeting of the 5th of March, the developer's representative opened up by stating, if this proposal is rejected, the developer will construct a larger boarding house development, and he said the same again. This confrontationalist approach was not received well by the local residents present, and the council officers in attendance did nothing to ensure that the developers' reps were encouraged to take a more conciliatory approach. The representatives went on to dismiss all concerns raised and had no willingness to compromise at all. In my opinion, this development proposal is only designed to maximise the developer's financial situation and not to deliver the homes people need or deserve. It is common knowledge that this developer owns the adjacent block of land to this proposed site. If this development is approved, I am in no doubt that a similar building will be put in on this adjacent block, and the local residents' concerns and issues will only be exacerbated. The council officers have made a recommendation to the council that development meets the character of the neighbourhood and only requires a small parking concession to be made. I refute this completely. Point 1, this development has 5 units or flats compressed onto an 800 square metre block. Any other 5-unit premise, and there are very few of those, are all on approximately 1,600 square metre blocks, which is really a double block. Point 2, all open individual outdoor spaces are not large enough for families. The smallest here is 40 square metres. Point 3, no other development or dwelling on William Street has front yard car parking on hard surfaces. Point 4, an exemption is required for 2 less parking spaces, not 1. One of the original 5 parking spaces were removed to allow a disability space to be created, and the visitor parking space was never allowed for in this application. Point 5, there are minimal garden spaces and no suitable water-saving features in this development. Point 6, with 10 garbage bins out the front of this single block and 2 cars parked on the road, the weekly garbage pickup will prove to be unmanageable. No other dwelling on William Street has all of these issues. William Street is made up of a combination of family homes, townhouses, older houses and units that all have family orientation with sufficient open spaces, appropriate parking and room for families to thrive and grow. The decision you make tonight will have lasting impact on your local residents. I ask you to consider the concerns raised by myself and others and reject this development proposal on the grounds that it does not meet the neighbourhood character and amenity of William Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford.
The next speaker is Blaze. Come up. Thank you. If, if you don't mind, just place them down and let the person speak. Thank you.
Hello, councillors and Mayor. Thank you for your time. My name is Blas Sarek, and I own the properties at 53 William Street across from this plan. Now, what I found in this 100-page document, it doesn't state the full truths of what's happened and discussed. For example, in the mediation meeting, no one objected to a plan that had only 3 or 2 townhouses, as what's been happening for the last 20 years in this neighbourhood on a 800 square metre allotment. We're only objecting to 5 that's being proposed. And as stated before, the other examples of 5 units have always been on 1,800 square metre allotments compared to this 809. So they're very big differences that's been compared to by the planning department. The rule of thumb has always been a unit can only consume 250 square metres, and that's been the established neighbourhood character. And this proposal will have a flat consuming only 162 square metres. So we can see that reduction. Now, by squeezing 5 units onto this 809 square metre allotment, the property has been set back to 11 metres. So it's not aligned to the other neighbours in terms of the setback. And there's questions whether the 11 metres is even allowed, because what we're reading is the maximum is only 9 metres. And it's been pulled back 11 metres just to allow for the concrete car parking of 2 vehicles across the entire front yard and to the right of the garage. Please have a look at the turning circles on page 682. Please have a look at the plans on those pages, and you will see that the whole front half of that allotment is all concrete. You will see a little bit of shrubbery on the fence line, and that is it, but the rest is all concrete. Do we want Wodonga Council to allow other residents to now park trailers and caravans and other vehicles on their front yard? This will be setting the wrong precedence to all the houses on William Street. Now, this is being pitched that the aim of this flats is for low-cost housing. We heard from Haydar Projects that it's saying it's using high-end materials and high-end fixtures. What it's trying to do is have business apartments so that it can be portrayed to Airbnb and get a high turnover. And there is nothing to say that the $300 per week will be monitored or policed. So please don't allow please don't allow parking across the whole front yard. And we can see from these bins, if the regulations is that 10 bins for 5 units on a weeknight.
Thank you, time's up. Next speaker, please, Mr. CEO.
Ask Alex Torini to come up, please. Alex, 3 minutes.
Mayor and councillors, thank you for your time. I'm going to be, I suspect, the only person here besides the developer speaking in favour of the development strictly in principle. I do agree with some of the negative aspects that people have raised just now, including the sea of concrete out the front will be unpleasant, though frankly I can't see how the developer will be able to comply with council's minimum car parking requirements without having a sea of concrete. Personally, I'd prefer not to have compulsory car parking minimums in place at all, and it really should be up to the developer. If they want to build a house without car parking, then so be it. It may not sell. It's their risk. You'll have to forgive me. I work full time and also study, so I haven't prepared a speech as such. So this is really off the top of my head. But I am a qualified urban planner. I don't currently work in the field, so you can probably understand when I say that Australia's housing crisis is a prevalent issue, and it is going to be addressed by one of two methods: either urban infill projects such as this, or building on the outskirts of the city. Urban infill projects allow for people to live within established areas around established facilities. Fringe suburbs often don't have established facilities and require people to drive into town. So if we're trying to fulfil the expected growth of Wodonga's growth plan, then we have one of two choices: either build new suburbs on the outskirts of town, and then we end up with transport problems like Western Melbourne has at the moment, where people spend 1 to 2 hours simply trying to drive 2 blocks to get out of their neighbourhood. Or we can build houses within existing areas that are walkable to existing facilities. One of the points, and that's essentially one of the points I made in my submission. I would like to see the developments the proposed units, if they go ahead, I would like to see some more provisions made for people who wish to store transport appliances other than a car. At the moment, I can't see where someone might wish to store a bicycle, a tricycle for someone who has mobility impairments and wants to ride a bike. There simply isn't anywhere to do it. One way that could be catered for is to require the developer to meet Design Housing Australia's livability housing guidelines at a platinum level. That would have a bonus whilst also allowing people to live in the house who have mobility impairments. It would also facilitate wider entrances for people who might want to wheel their bicycle, for example, through to the backyard. In summary, per my submission, nothing has changed. I don't want to change anything about that. I support the development in principle. I think it could be improved per what I submitted back in January. As I said, I agree with some of the things that have been raised. As for the bins, a no parking sign for 1 day a week could solve that problem. But thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Turini. Mr. CEO.
Our next speaker is Alex Van Kesteren. Alex, thank you. 3 minutes, thank you.
Thanks to everyone. Hi all. Thanks to everyone else that talked. And Alex, that was unexpected, but it was good. It's good to hear. You heard mainly from Henry and Blaz about the problems that we believe that is going to be on this development. Oversight or favouritism towards developer, so I don't want to go into that. I only spent 3 hours today researching into the sort of the aspects and the build, and I found 2 non-compliant aspects to do with the build. So and different plans throughout, making different arguments. So if you sort of see, I don't have the page numbers relevant, but if you look at the parking and sort of the turning ratios compared to the garden space per square metre, they're different plans. So I don't know if that's deceptive, but anyway, or just an oversight. What I will go into is that all the objectors, we're all from different backgrounds. Some of us are builders, developers, people developed in the area, renovators. And so none of us are opposed to growth, as sort of Alex was saying. But what we are opposed to, and none of us here are being paid and trying to fit this in between our full-time jobs. So it's very hard to try and get us some really good dot point facts. But the only thing we have in common is objecting to this five units, which I think is very important. Matt was going on to say, that it's for the housing crisis, higher level finishes, cheaper housing doesn't make sense. And it's disappointing that Haydar, or Matt in particular, was able to submit a video, yet no such offer was made to any of us here, and accusations of being deceitful has been thrown our way. 11 objections were made for this dwelling. And none of us are sort of educated in the local planning. And we found enough faults that I do believe that you should at least go back and have a harder look at this. In similar circumstances in dealing with Wodonga City Council, I've been told they're very strict in enforcing the state government's rules and have no flexibility when it comes to neighbourhood characteristics, garden percentages and car parks. And to that, I quote from a member of your staff, under no circumstances will be a car park exemption be granted. This development will set a precedence that will negatively affect the neighbourhood, and once done, there is no going back. The whole process has made me wonder, why bother doing public notices? Why bother having mediations? I used to believe that this process is so that existing residents would have some sort of say and our objections being taken seriously, as we have all heavily invested in the area. We just want to be treated fairly and equally. There is no equality. Why doesn't Council, instead of having a 100-page report justifying the development, have 50 pages for and 50 pages against? Why in the mediation was there's no push for some sort of agreement between the 11 of us? Sorry. Do you have a question for me? Okay, sorry, a little distracting. Anyway, at the end of the day, I'm just asking for no exemptions, no leniency. The rules are the rules. If they can't make, the development work, stop trying to cram it through. And just some of those problems, very briefly, is the garage doesn't comply with the 2.6 minimum width plus 300 mil overlay each side. The car parking, is it disabled? There's a disabled sticker, but yet it's double car park in the garage. And then those opposing plans I was talking about with the garden spaces, there's some square meterage and the setback as well. There was a very clear ordinance. The average of the two buildings either side, or 9 metres, whatever's less. Thank you. Sorry I had to rush through that, but very strict on the time. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you, Mr. Van Kesteren. There's no more speakers. Councillors, we've now heard from those wishing to make submission, and we've heard from the developer. Do I have a motion? Councillor Chamberlain.
I'd like to move that we reject this application, and I will follow up with my arguments forthwith.
Sorry, Councillor Chamberlain, it's a planning matter. We must have the reasons for objection, the reasons for refusal, sorry.
Okay, so I'd like to move that we reject this application on the basis of street amenity, on the basis of secluded private open spaces not being met in some cases on some units, and that the car parks, the waiving of the car park I think is unacceptable, particularly given the fact that the garage is 6 metres long, but some of the end of it will make it shorter. Yep. Okay. So again, so the garage sizing and the car parking provision is not sufficient. Insufficient is the word I'm looking for. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hall. Councillor Chamberlain, do you wish to speak?
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody for putting in their submissions. I'd like to thank Hadar Homes for their particular submission. And of course, we're all talking about affordable housing. It's the buzzword and we need to do it. Having said that, we also need to be aware of the amenity of the neighbourhoods where we're putting these things and how it goes about doing what it does. There are a number of things on this that personally cause me a great deal of uncomfortableness, if that's a word. One of which is indeed the parking of cars on a concrete pad in the front yard. I understand that our officers have, on balance, decided to recommend to put this, but on balance means that there are pros and there are cons. And my opinion in this case is the cons outweigh the pros, so I am differing in my opinion from the officer's recommendation. The secluded private open space requirements of 40 square metres are not met on a number of these units. There are 3, in fact, that don't meet it. There's one that doesn't even come close. Okay, the garage, although anecdotally is for 2 cars because there's only 3 other car park spaces out the front, also has bin storage in it, which foreshortens the actual parking area of the garage, which to me means it no longer meets the minimum size for the garage for parking. The other thing about that bin storage is that it's effectively indoors, so you could end up with a, and again, this is not necessarily a reason for rejection, but you could end up with a waste bin in there for 2 weeks with rotting food in it, and the moment anyone opens up the door to that garage, then the entire hallway is full of that smell and everyone has to deal with it. So again, that's not necessarily a reason for rejection, but it's certainly something in the system that I would be considering when I look at this plan. And I think that's the basis at this stage for my rejection. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Hall.
I reserve my right. Thank you.
Councillor Hall, reserve. Other councillors? No other councillors? Councillor Lowe?
Yeah, I've got to admit, this one has had me swinging both ways, to be honest, just due to the fact that we do need more urban infill development. We do need more infill development that is different to what we've had. Clearly, we've got people that need to have affordable housing and that are downsizers, living on their own. They don't need a 2 or 3 or 4 bedroom house. But we need a development, on paper, this looks fine, until you match it up against some of the planning requirements that we all have to follow when we put in development applications. You know, whether that be storage of rainwater, whether that be showing where bins need to be held. This particular one has a need for an all abilities driveway access. Concrete out the front doesn't really come into my mind anyway, to be honest. You can drive into a number of estates in the areas and the only thing they have is a concrete driveway that is 4.5 metres long. So it has been screened, and whether you like that or don't like that, that's a personal taste. We're going to have to live with some of this infill development. I'll probably be rejecting this development application as it stands tonight and going against the planner's words, just due to a couple of the points that was brought up by the urban planner that I acknowledge you're not an urban planner anymore, because I think those things need to be addressed too, and the private open space, etc. So it's a no for me for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Other speakers? Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to start by thanking all the presenters tonight. Thank you very much for putting in lots of your personal time to prepare to do your research, to prepare your presentation and to come and speak to us tonight. It's always good to hear from the community, and it's really good that we had both sides presenting, not just one. So it was good to hear the all-around comments around this issue. I will not be supporting the application tonight. I won't be repeating why. Enough technical reasons have been mentioned, such as insufficient parking, garage spaces, rainwater storage bins, or loss of amenity, etc. Well, I myself grew up in a big city in a small concrete box, so to say, but I think that Wodonga City can do a lot better. There is nothing wrong with growing out extra suburbs and continuing to extend the facilities. We don't want to start putting cages in the middle of the city to the point where we have to start giving residents antibiotics, like non-range free chickens. So we should really make sure that even if we try to build something more affordable, we look at the sewage problem, water problem, rubbish bins problems with a lot more responsibility than we are presented with today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Councillor Poulton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to my councillor colleagues for their considerations so far. It is a tough one because on paper it certainly fills all the needs of which we're well aware of and have been for some years now. Unfortunately, there are larger dwellings of 3 or 4 bedrooms occupied by people that actually only need a place with 1 bedroom. And if I take the last week or so of consideration, as I've been sort of a bit like yourself, Councillor Lowe, sitting there going, it's really 50-50 on this in terms of what we're trying to achieve, or the developers perhaps trying to achieve, and as a society we're trying to achieve. But also to accept change as a community. When you do look around, you see developments that have been made over past decades, some of them 30, 40, 50-year-old, that once upon a time would have been controversial within their neighbourhood, and once upon a time would have stood out to start with, but eventually just become part of what that particular part of a city is. It is a difficult one, but I do acknowledge that it's not quite perfect. And I think whenever I do go to make a decision point, I always take in all the facts, take in all the information, and then think, can we do better? I think it's certainly one of those cases where I'll be supporting the motion before us to reject the development this evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Before I go to the seconder, there's a few things I'd like to make in reference to this. The first thing is I will support anything that creates good quality, higher density infill into the centre of our city. And I think we need to be consistent about how we do that. However, good quality infill means doing more than ticking the boxes to comply with each individual component of the regulations. And it includes being consistent with the neighbourhood character within which you are developing. There is one fundamental standout in the streetscape in regard to the neighbourhood character here. And if you look at the neighbourhood character of this area, it has front yards that are reasonably well landscaped and somewhat more traditional in the way things have gone about, even in those places where the units and the development has gone ahead to some significant extent. So this area is developing in a higher density than what it has traditionally been, and it's being done in a rather respectful and tasteful manner. It is not being done in a way where all the boxes just get ticked and you just get it over the line. It's been done with some reasonably good and capable urban design. So from that point of view, I think the development that we've got before us just fails to meet the standards that we should be trying to apply. And because of that, I can't support this application. And there's a whole range of other things that go in regard to it, in some of the things where it doesn't quite tick the boxes in regard to open space for the individual tenancies, the huge amount of common property, which it takes away a sense of place and a sense of each dwelling or each occupancy unit having its own sense of presence and sense of entry. It takes away the things that make our community and our area, particularly this area, something that is comfortable and happy and healthy to live in. So from that point, I'll be refusing it. Councillor Hall, you're reserved.
Yes, like the other councillors, you know, we're all very aware of the need of affordable housing, but this to me seems like, as other councillors said, it's ticking the box. And to be quite honest, there's a few things in it, when you look at it deeper, I question whether they meet the building regulations as well, because 1st of May this year came in the new building regulations in Victoria around energy rating. I'm not believe it meets the energy rating, but around door sizes. And I've looked through this, and whilst it's got 820, it suggests that you need 870 for an 820 clearance door frame. Also with the garage, you've got a total measurement of 6470. The minimum for a garage is generally about, well, I believe it's around 6 metres. But then you've got the rubbish bins in here, and I've measured the rubbish bins and they won't fit. So, you know, whilst it's very easy drawing things, making them to fit, but when you actually measure things out, they don't often measure how you would like. and that's where you have problems, and I know that from experience. There's got an ensuite there with the 720 door. I don't believe that meets the disability regulations that have come in. The clearances, it's got 1,400 for ensuite. I think it's in ensuite 2, unit 2. I wonder if you've got the clearance between the toilet and the wall, which is supposed to be 120, 1.2 metres. I don't believe that meets that. I'm not the building inspector or whatever, but in my view, these are just little issues that all add together with the waiving of the car parking. It says there's designated car parking for each unit. It's not put on the plan as to which car parking space is to which unit. There's one roller door on so 2 cars get one remote key. Is that how it works? I don't know. Just to me, it seems like this development is cramped, and that's putting it nicely. And I think generally, as what's been mentioned by the submitters objecting, that generally an 800 metre square block would fit, say, 3 units on it, not 5. And I think it will detract from the street as to what other developments are in there. So I won't be supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Before I put the motion, I'll read out the motion as it's been written. The motion is that Councillor Chamberlain, before I read it out, Councillor Chamberlain to close.
Thank you very much. I don't want to pretend for 1 minute that this was an open and shut case when I decided to go against this development. I'm fully cognizant of the fact that we need more infill development. I'm fully cognizant of the fact that we need more affordable housing, and we need housing for people who won't necessarily require multiple bedrooms and lots of space. Having said that, as I said, the officer's report said on balance. My rejection is also on balance. The only difference is I believe the balance is slightly the other way. And accordingly, I believe the Mayor will read out a far more clear motion, given the fact that it's a hell of a lot harder to read out a motion with correct reasons against one of these things than it is to say, well, as recommended by the officers. But difficult decision, but one I've spent a lot of time in looking over, and I have to say that I think I'll be comfortable with the decision that I've made at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. The motion is as you've read it initially and taken down by the CEO. The motion is that Council refuse the application on the basis of not meeting the requirements of the planning scheme and specifically 1, street amenity in reference to neighbourhood character, 2, private open space objectives, and 3, car parking requirements. I put that motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried unanimously. Councillors, we go back to item 8.1 on the agenda. Australia Day Awards Guidelines. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Poulton, as recommended. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Quilty. Councillor Poulton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Quilty, for seconding as the current chair of the Australia Day Committee. As the former chair, it's good to see us in a timely manner review what has and hasn't worked as a council in the past in ensuring we're available, I guess, in terms of award nominations for Australia Day celebrations. And it's good to see that we have a good set of guidelines there to carry forward to ensure that there is appropriate qualifying areas for people to be put into, or there's also then the flexibility for those making the decisions should a very good candidate be put forward but in the wrong spot, that we can move those around. It is clear that it's a very important part of our societal fabric for our community. What I do, I guess, caution though is these Australia Day activities will be a little bit different to previous years as we move forward. But the main thing is the awards are still in place and everything's there ready to enable us to do that. So that will have my support this evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Councillor Quilty. Councillor Quilty reserve. Any other? Councillor Hall.
Yeah, I'd just like to add these changes to the guidelines are small, so you know, it's always good to review things time and time again. And there have been a few tweaks. This is just in a sense to tidy up and strengthen the criteria, opening the age for young Australian of the Year. You know, there's no real minimum age, but you know, it depends on what the individual has contributed to being eligible for that award. And yeah, I think it's just, as I said, a tidy up and a tweak to the existing policy that we or guidelines that we have.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Other councillors? Councillor Lowe.
Yeah, thank you. I echo my fellow councillors' words, and probably just more, I won't add much to that, what's already been said, other than taking the opportunity to urge our community that nominations from year in, year out, our members, our community organisations, our citizens of the year can be nominated at any time. So I urge our community to have a think about someone that they may know that volunteers for everything or does well in our community, whether they're worthy for a nomination. So I urge that to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, thank you. I'd just like to say how pleased I am with the fact that our Australia Day Awards go ahead, and how impressed I am at the quality of the people who receive these awards for Citizen and Young Citizen of the Year. I'd also like to echo Councillor Lowe's statement there. There are a number of people in our city who contribute a hell of a lot selflessly over multiple times, and sometimes through multiple events and multiple, groups. And a lot of those people don't get nominated. So I really do urge people to have a look and put their names up, because some of these people deserve the recognition they haven't gained in recent years. But that's taking nothing away from the people who've received that recognition recently. We've had some wonderful recipients of Australian of the Year, and I just wanted to say I'm pleased at this stage, and that this may be something for a future government, a future council and future bits and pieces, but I'm pleased to say that it's on Australia Day, and I'm happy to see that it's going to stay there, at least during my term. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Quilty, you reserved.
Thank you. Just as Councillor Poulton has pointed out, it is my privilege to serve as the chair of Australia Day Committee. It is always a great pleasure to see the citizens of the year, young citizens of the year, and organizations of the year being nominated and being awarded. And I would also like to encourage community as much as possible to nominate citizens of the year, young citizens of the year, organizations of the year. We do have a lot of worthy nominees or potential nominees, and would like to see more competition and more people being nominated. I believe the guidelines in front of us have made it a little bit easier to find the nominees, such as adjusting the age group for the young citizen of the year, and as it has been mentioned, giving the selection panel the right to move a nominee from category to category. There are a few other adjustments that make the guidelines easier and better. And once again, I hope whether I'm still here on council or just attending as a resident attending Australia Day next year, I would like to see lots of nominations and happy and well-deserving citizens being rewarded. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Councillor Poulton to close.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just while on the topic of the Australia Day Citizen Awards and these guidelines, it is important that we do get the nominations and the high quality ones. It's pretty difficult to be selfless at a certain time of year where suddenly a council says, hey, who do you think deserves an award? So yes, thinking about this top of mind all year round, going, oh geez, I must contact Wodonga Council and put in a nomination while someone has impressed you would be a smart way to go about it. The other thing I will say, just in line with the draft budget that's currently available for the community to give feedback on, I just thought in relation to the Australia Day Awards, yes, they will be happening on Australia Day, but things will change a little bit in this budget cycle. We'll probably see an event similar to the one held this year. We won't be returning to the barbecue in one of Wodonga's parks like we have over many decades. So due to budgetary constraints, we will be slightly different moving forward, but they will still happen on Australia Day. And we look forward to people utilising these guidelines for their nominations and also for our selection process as well. It's just a shame we didn't get that Junction Square Australia Day up and running. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. The next item on the agenda is item 8.2, Instruments of Delegation Update. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Chamberlain? Councillor Poulton? Councillor Chamberlain?
This is basically a housekeeping thing. We have to update our instruments of delegation from time to time. Nothing controversial in this and all fairly straightforward. So I'll be recommending that it goes ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Poulton? Councillor Poulton, reserve. Any other speakers? Councillor Hall?
Yeah, this update has come about because of the recent council organisation restructure, and it's needed so the appropriate members of staff can perform their duties and responsibilities under the delegated authority given to them by the CEO. So it's just a matter of an update on the delegations as such.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Other councillors? Councillor Lowe?
Yeah, again, I'll echo my fellow councillors' words. It's just one of those documents that regularly comes up to us, that we regularly review, and we'll keep on regularly doing it. So everyone's up to date. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Other councillors? Councillor Poulton, you're reserved. You can move. We put the motion. And given that's a procedural motion, I don't need a seconder, so I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Quilty? Councillor Lowe, Councillor Poulton, Councillor Hall, Councillor Mildren. Against? Councillor Chamberlain. The motion is carried. put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Councillors, the next item on the agenda is 8.3 Gateway Lakes, Diamond Park and Martin Park Master Planning Project. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Hall, as recommended. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Poulton. Councillor Hall.
Yeah, this master plan has been a lot of work and consultation gone into it by the staff. Look forward to feedback we receive. It's going out for public exhibition, and it'll come back, and then we'll have a look at any submission received. And so it's been out. Okay, sorry, I might be thinking the other one, but okay. So it's come back, and it's about a matter of adopting it tonight, and I support doing so. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Poulton. Reserve. Any other speakers? Councillor Lowe.
Yeah, thank you. Quite often in this role as councillor, I've often thought about there's always seemed to be a master plan of a master plan of a master plan. And here we're presented with a couple more master plans, so of ones that, but the one I acknowledge in this one is the previous master plans of both these districts, I'll call them. Yeah, Martin Park and that. If you look at the last master plan of Martin Park, for example, quite a few of those have been ticked off. So it's a worthwhile investment, and an investment that come from the Sport and Recreation Victoria Local Sport Infrastructure Fund as well. So it wasn't council's money, or part thereof wasn't council's money. One thing I'll highlight is Diamond Park and the need down there, and it's come out in the plan to really update that area and embrace it a little bit more. I think it's very underutilised, and I can't wait till we actually turn the front of that onto the river and see what we can do down there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Other councillors? Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, I'd like to echo those words. I think it'll be good to see Diamond Park utilised a bit more and a bit better. Again, master plans on master plans, as was stated. I can't say as I necessarily agree with everything within these master plans. It would have been nice to see some further stuff in Martin Park. Having said that, we've got to crawl before we can walk sometimes, and we need to take these things on board as we can. And I just want to thank the staff in particular for the amount of work that's gone into putting this stuff together. We've got a very, very good quality staff on board here, and they do wonderful work, and sometimes they don't get appreciated quite as much as they should. It went out, a number of people contacted us and gave us feedback. We've taken all of that feedback on board. Obviously, we can't necessarily act on feedback because it is just that. Someone's wish list is not necessarily something that we can, or in some cases even should achieve. Having said that, I think we've done a fairly good job here of putting together a plan for the future for these three areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Before we go back to Councillor Poulton, who's reserved, there's just a couple of things. I think master plans are important for long-term planning of council expenditure and state and federal government expenditures and a whole range of different things to have projects that are in the back of mind at the very least. The one thing I'm a little disappointed on is that we couldn't reconcile the needs of Wodonga Saints Footy Club and the netball facilities, but hopefully something can be organised through the process to ensure that there's an equitable use of the netball facilities that will result as a result of this plan. Maybe that's something that needs to be looked at the next time we get into the strategic planning round for Martin Park, which will happen again into the future. Other than that, the master planning is a good exercise that's necessary to set things in train for a logical and orderly manner of how we allocate our resources over time. Councillor Poulton to reserve.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's quite positive, it's quite exciting. I love a good master plan. I just love a plan, full stop, as long as it's executed. Good to see Gateway Lakes and Diamond Park specifically in this round of planning, because they are two wonderful open spaces that have got things happening, but just lend themselves to so much more. I'm really bad with football, so I know you like your footy. Martin Park, that's where the team Wodonga inherited from out of town somewhere to Bathanga. Yeah, so I know Martin Park's had a lot of attention over the years, and we did inherit the football team. So yeah, as I said, it's more for me about making sure Diamond Park and Gateway Lakes get the attention they deserve. But yeah, I'll be supporting the motion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Poulton. Councillor Hall to close. I put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. The next item is 8.4, Place Names Advisory Committee Options. Do I have a motion? Councillor Poulton as recommended. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hall. Councillor Poulton.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. This one's just a structural change on how we go about naming significant and new places within our community. And it's a little sad, but it makes a lot of sense based on the conversations we've had previously in briefings as councillors. So the recommendation tonight will receive my full support. It still has the community element of council, obviously, having the say over the naming and what have you, but I think it's, as I said, a little sad that the community engagement wasn't there to continue as we were under, I know, Councillor Hall's good guidance over the past at least 3 years, I think. But yeah, it will receive my support this evening as it is. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Councillor Hall.
Yes, the council's went out twice and advertised to get more committee members because we couldn't form a quorum at our meetings due to many reasons. Deaths, one of our committee members died, work commitments, so all sorts of reasons. And I was a bit disappointed. The response we got was a maximum of 2. Maybe some of the reasoning for that could be because the committee meetings are held during the day. It's hard to reschedule those because we involve staff. So I think, to be fair to them, it was better to keep it during the day, but we had to look for a way forward, and this report gives us options. The officers recommend in this report that it goes out and does have some, as Councillor Poulton said, some community engagement with where we going forward. Upon finishing this, I'd like to say that I thought we had a great committee and we all worked really well together, and it's just a shame the numbers fell away over the time. But I would also sincerely like to thank the committee members for the commitment and hard work. You were all very much appreciated, and I hope we can find a better way forward and still keep up the good work with the requirements legislation with places and name responsibilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Other councillors? Councillor Cruelty.
First of all, I would like to acknowledge Councillor Hall's work and dedication and passion for the Place Names Advisory Committee, and to thank her for that, and to join her in thanking the community members who did participate in this committee. While it is great to have community input into what our streets and squares and places are going to be called, since we didn't have the interest due to various reasons, it only makes sense to disband the committee. As per the recommendation, the council officers will put a report together, do background work, brief the councillors during our normal briefing sessions, and then the final decision will be made at the council meetings like the one we're having today. And of course, the policy document will need to be adjusted to reflect that. While it is a pity, and I'm sure Councillor Hall will miss her committee meetings, this is the sensible thing to do, so I'll support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coulty. Other councillors? Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate the thanks for Councillor Hall and the members of the previous Place Names Advisory Committee for a good job, and the dedication in trying to get this stuff right. It's not easy. There's always going to be a number of opinions as to what things should be named and even the themes around which should be used for names. But I think it's appropriate that the community consultation will still happen in the council making these decisions, and it's a bit of a shame we couldn't get a quorum together, but it is a difficult thing to commit yourself for some of these committees, particularly during the day for people who may work for a living. Thank you.
Other councillors? Councillor Poulton to close.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. If I could just close by posing a question to Wodonga and perhaps to my fellow councillors around what committee in this current day and age would meet the appetite of those to put themselves last and maybe have a say on some things that happen within the city. I would have thought this particular committee would be an easy one to find people for. It's not too cumbersome, it's not too technical. But as I said in my opening thoughts, it is sad because now essentially, you know, the interactions really with councillors. It'd be better as a whole sort of where possible community approach. Perhaps those that weren't elected as councillors get a chance to also still contribute into their city. But yeah, I guess that question is what would engage a community to be a part of this organisation, and is there a future for some other sort of advisory committees within the community? But that's a discussion for a later time. But the recommendation will have my support. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. The next item on the agenda tonight is the draft Wodonga Destination Management Plan 2024 to 2028. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Chamberlain. As recommended. Seconder. Councillor Lowe. Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, the Albury-Wodonga Destination Management Plan does a good job, I think. It's one of the interactions we have with Albury Council that is successful. You can't always say that with some of the stuff we do with Albury Council. A lot of the stuff, sometimes you seem like it's a bit one-sided. We're not happy, they're not happy, something's going wrong. But this one, I think, hits the spot and does a pretty good job and is a very efficient way for us to push our local area as a destination. So I'll be supporting this motion tonight. Thank you.
You, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Lowe.
Yeah, I'll be supporting the motion tonight too, because it's a commitment that both councils made, was to take a leadership role to respond to the region's visitor economy needs and opportunities to grow a vibrant visitor destination. And without a plan, you can't do that. And so it's another example of our two cities, one community coming together and pooling our resources so we can complement each other and not compete against each other, and take advantage of our, not what's here just in Albury-Wodonga, but surrounding us as well. One thing that come out of the plan and from both sides of the border was our want to embrace Lake Hume more, and it's one of my passions, obviously from my background. I'd like to see more happen out there too, but it's not just about Lake Hume. It's about, you know, we've seen in the past year our overnight visitor stay increased by 8%, which means people are coming here and they're coming here by good numbers, whether that's just visiting family or friends or whether they're coming for the cruises on the Murray, some of our major events here. So I think it's a good plan and one that we need to capitalise on as well. And I thank you for putting it together too, Kim.
Councillor Lowe, other councillors? Councillor Poulton?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I've always believed a livable city is one that you'll visit. Often when you travel around the state, the country, the world, you find places you go, geez, I could probably actually live here. Certainly there's a lot of places you say you wouldn't. Wodonga's certainly not one of those. Albury Wodonga certainly isn't a destination that is like that. And I just wanted to put on record and apologise, I guess, to my councillor colleagues, the officers, and more importantly, the community, because when this topic was in its formative stages, I think I missed the memo somewhere through there amongst all the other topics that we consider and discuss. So I did have a couple of objections with us not quite being strong enough to my personal satisfaction, and maybe the offering that we've got before us being a bit same. But regardless, it will receive my support. But as I said, I just wanted to have on record to all those that I wasn't going to level any criticism if I've been missing in action at a component of this myself. So yeah, just I'll support it. But may we go forward and prosper in the next versions of this beyond 2028. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Other councillors? Councillor Hall?
Yes, I'd just like to add that in the report it states that in 2023, Albury Wodonga visitor economy trends delivered a $1.28 billion to our local economy, and that's it. Well, there's an increase of 5% from 2022. So, you know, that's a good thing, and we do need to have a plan on where we go with increasing that over the forward years. And I look forward, this is going to go out for public exhibition, and I look forward to feedback that we will receive back from the community.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. I just note we're actually endorsing the document. It's not going out. Sorry, any other councillors? Councillor Chamberlain to close.
Yeah, again, I'd just like to close by thanking and congratulating our staff and the staff at Albury City who've collaborated on this document. They've done a fine job, and we do appreciate the work they've done. Yet again, I might sound like a broken record, but we've got some very good staff and they need to be recognised. When they do very good work, we need to put our hand up and say, well done. And in this case, well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. I put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. The next item is item 8.7, Animal Pound Contract Exercise of Option. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Hall.
I'm just trying to find, I'm just getting up to date. Yes, I've got that in between. Animal contract. Okay. I would like to move the recommendation but add to the existing recommendation. And that is, do you want me to read the whole thing out?
We can take the first two as read.
Yeah, okay. Just trying to find where we're at. 2-year period. Okay, so after point 2, that the report allows sufficient time for consideration of a capital budget allocation in the 2025-2026 draft budget should an option demonstrate that an in-house facility is financially viable.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Hall.
Okay. A Wodonga pound over the years has been a contentious issue for this community. We have had robust discussions around animal management and the cost of our pet registrations numerous times at council. In the 2023-24 budget, we addressed pet registration costs and brought those costs in line to register our pets with other regional councils. This has made our pet registration fees more affordable for our community, and in turn, I believe, it has encouraged more of our pets owners to register their pets. And along with doing so, more available for rangers to return them back to their owners if they're registered. Therefore, we've got an ability to take them back if they get lost. Albury Council are building a new animal management facility which will provide for many local regional councils that are outsourcing their facility, outsourcing the service, and that includes Wodonga. At this stage, our costs to source our animal management responsibilities are acceptable, but I would like to see a more recent audit to be able to assess whether the facility does meet with Victorian regulations and practices. I'm told it does, and I have no reason to think otherwise on this. Going forward, the cost to provide this service to Wodonga could change in the 2 years' time after this extension of the contract. Once the animal management facility is completed and our contract with them expires, I believe we should, as I've said, do a proper assessment where we go. I would like to, I believe I would provide a perfect timing after the contract expires with the agreement with Albury City, and the council community will get to see whether it's value for money, is worth value for money in outsourcing this service to Albury. Our animals and our animals being treated humanely, and is the cost fair and reasonable? Could we do better? All the important questions we will hopefully be able to do in the recommendation that I'm putting forward tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Chamberlain. Chamberlain in reserve. Any other councillors? Councillor Lowe.
Yeah, I'll be voting in favour tonight of extending the contract for the 2 years, and have to echo Councillor Hall's words in that it is be remiss of us not to ongoingly check the viability of any service that we provide and look at better ways to do it and more efficiency to do that. And if the outcome of that is to continue outsourcing our pound to Albury, then so be it as well. And it's probably a worthy reminder of to the community, any potential candidates to run for council, that sometimes what you promise during your council campaign you might not necessarily be able to deliver on. So it's probably worth mentioning that to people. Not to once you get behind the table, it's very different to how things operate and what you can and can't do. But I'll be voting in favour tonight of the extension. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Other councillors? Councillor Poulton.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and thanks, Councillor Hall, for your motion. A little addition to what was recommended. I can't see any significant reason as to why not support that. I guess my gut feeling is nothing's going to get cheaper, and I'd challenge if there's 5 or 6 councils working together to take care of animals, it's probably going to be the cheapest way. I think we've learnt that in a lot of cases with other things we've done, aquatics contracts, things like that. Just to narrow a few, but we'll remain, as Councillor Lowe said, open-minded to constantly looking at what services cost us and if there is a better or more efficient way to do it. But I also don't want to create a false hope or a false promise within the community that suddenly we're going to start doing things that we haven't done for some time. Obviously, if the data came back beyond this council term that there is a case to do it, I'm sure we'd be silly not to do it. But time will tell, and hopefully I'm wrong, but I can't see that changing anytime soon based on the most recent data we had in front of us 3 years ago. So this motion, as Councillor Hall's put up, as I said, will receive my support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Councillor Chamberlain, you're reserved.
Yes, I'll be supporting this tonight. I've been on record as being, certainly in earlier years, as councillor Lowe pointed out, as being keen on the fact that Wodonga should supply animal welfare in the Wodonga Township. However, the realities of the financial situations basically mean that it's not practical and wasn't practical to do that at this stage. I am 100% cognizant that Albury is building a new, very flash, very expensive facility going forward on the basis of a number of councils using their facilities. We've been sending animals to the Albury since 2016, and it is estimated that the 24-25 budget for animal welfare going to Albury will be in the order of $160,000. If, having gained a monopoly in the animal housing business in the area in future years, Albury decide they've got us by the proverbials and decide they're going to jack up the price to a ridiculous level, well, maybe we do need to review the fact as to whether or not it's viable for us to go ahead and provide our own facility and maybe steal some of their customers. If that becomes practical, certainly financially practical in the future, that'll be a good thing. If they keep doing the right thing by us and providing a good service, looking after the animals and the owners of the animals when they go to retrieve them, as they have done so far, for the most part, I think they can go on and continue to provide the service for us. So I will be supporting this, as I said. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Hall to close.
Yeah, I'd just like to add that it's also very vital that that the animals are treated humanely, and I think we need to have those audits done on a biannual or annual time frame to see whether they are meeting because Victoria has quite stringent rules on animal husbandry, and so going forward that would be something I would like to look at. But as Councillor Chamberlain said, cost for a pound at this stage for our council is pretty not available, and but I would hope that the Albury Council or Albury Management Facility, Animal Management Facility, would look into consideration that they have got, I think, 5 regional councils that that use their service and don't jack up the costs astronomically going forward. So, yep, thank you.
Thank you, councillor Hall. I put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. The next item is item 8.8, Albury Wodonga Hospital Advocacy. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Hall?
I will move the recommended motion.
As recommended. Yep. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Quilty? Sorry. Councillor Hall?
This report in our agenda here tonight provides an update on our council's advocacy as it stands. Our Mayor, CEO and staff have been, in my view, exceptional in their advocacy for the hospital and health services in this discussion. As a result of council resolution March 18th this year, numerous actions have been implemented from the March Health Summit. The report provides an easy-to-read attachment with a list of actions that have been either completed, is in progress, or is not yet actioned. You will see that most actions listed are in progress or completed. The Mayor is scheduled to meet with the Health Minister on the 4th of June, which we all hope is productive. But in saying that, we still have a very long way to go. Council received an email this morning from Board of Better Health thanking Council for our commitment in working together with them, along with others with the same interest in strongly advocating for our hospital health services in this region. They kindly have compiled a list of issues relating to the Albury campus from the 2023 master plan for the hospital. It is informative, easy to read, and highlights some of the really disturbing issues our community will and have in some cases now experiencing with the facility as it stands. and what we will receive going forward with that new master plan. There are many risks with the master plan as it stands now, and I would like to thank Board of Better Health for taking the time out in compiling the information and for their support in our combined effort with Advocacy for the betterment of this region's hospital and health services. It is extremely disappointing that our fellow councillors at Albury Council don't get on board and support our people and our region with regards to advocating for the best possible health outcomes for our combined communities, and I wish they would open their eyes and get on board and support us and all the organisations out there that can see that we're getting done over. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Quilty. Councillor Quilty, reserve. Any other councillors? Councillor Poulton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Hall, for the motion before us. I just want to ask a question before I speak, if I can, Mr. Mayor, just because in the report it said further updates will be provided by the Mayor at the meeting. I just wanted to know, in regards, before I speak, I don't need an update from you, but just before I speak, out of those current complete in progress, is there any changes to that table that's in the report?
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. There's quite a few changes. As you know, the process with preparation of agendas goes back, well, potentially 3 weeks from when the agenda was first starting to be prepared. So there's been quite a bit of, shall we say, water gone under the bridge over the time, and I'll get to the detail when I'm entitled to speak. But yeah, basically a number of the things have stepped a bit further down the track, and there's been a few other things that have happened, yes.
I'll try not to come across like an idiot, because you might say something that'll change what I say. Actually, you know what? Nothing can help me. So 3 months ago, I guess we had our forum, or very close to 3 months ago. Just on the basis of the report, I was concerned that only 4 actions were complete. 6 were currently underway and 4 weren't even attempted yet. That might have changed, so I'll park that aside. For me, little concerned that 3 months down the track from that health forum that we hosted and spent substantial money and time on, that's how far we'd progressed with that, and we're happy to, as an organisation, report that publicly. I think that's a little slow pace. What I will do, though, is counteract that with the view of former councillor Greg Conkey, OAM, who I had the chance of interviewing and talking to about the Wagga Hospital development when their campaigning and lack of action and distaste with their governments at the time started before I was born. And has only been delivered in recent years. So I'm just a little concerned that we've perhaps, as a community, missed the boat here in terms of actually being able to have any sway, in actually having any muscles left to flex, and in actually ever being taken seriously. And this will extend as potentially a mistake well into the future. I get the feeling, or hope, that my fears will be allayed through further conversation on this matter. But regardless, I will obviously vote to support the recommendation that we receive and note the report, because that's what we're here to do. But I just want it on record that I'm a little concerned, but also weighed out by knowledge of other examples. I just hope my perception of our inaction doesn't come to be a reality or a deterrent in our progress as a community for good health outcomes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Other councillors? Councillor Chamberlain.
Thank you. Again, I'll also be supporting this because receiving and noting the report is completely sensible. I will say about 10 months ago at a 2 cities, 1 community meeting with Albury City councillors or some of, I stood in a room and said to them, we need to work together on the things we agree with when it comes to this hospital. There are always going to be things we disagree about. One of those things, obviously, is Albury will do everything they can, apparently, to retain the hospital on its current site on the basis of they think there's a potential that they may lose it from Albury altogether if it moves anywhere else. Wodonga Council, on the other hand, is and has always advocated for the best health outcomes for the people of Albury, Wodonga and the surrounding areas. And as far as I'm concerned, I think the only logical place for a hospital is on a new site, and I don't care whether the site's in New South Wales or in Victoria, in Albury or in Wodonga, as long as it's appropriate and we can build what we need to build to get the health outcomes we need. It's becoming absolutely obvious as far as I'm concerned, certainly with the more information that comes out, and I have to thank Amanda Conn. If you want to get semi-political, she's a Green. I don't necessarily align with her political opinions, but she's done a hell of a job of getting information out of the New South Wales government to tell us that the plan they've got for this hospital will not and cannot comply with the clinical services plan they had in place. And it would appear to me, unfortunately, not only are they backing off the plan for the hospital to suit the money they've got, they're backing off the clinical services plan to suit the building they can build. It's the wrong way to go about it, and the people of Albury Wodonga deserve better. Our health is the most important thing that we can deal with here, and to go ahead with this stuff, that's the reason we put together the forum. And it was very disappointing to see the state of Victoria basically not represented, and we were ignored. So I applaud the people who put together that in the council. I applaud the people who attended. We all said that we want the best outcomes and we need to go ahead with those things. But yes, I will be voting to support this tonight. But we will continue, or I will be continuing to push as hard as I can for the best outcomes of the people of Albury Wodonga and surrounding areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Other councillors? Okay. You're reserved, but there's two ways we can go about this. I can request an extension of time before I start, or I can request that we go and suspend standing orders for a moment while I update what's transpired. So I'm in your hands, councillors. Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Seconded by Councillor Lowe. I put the motion that I get a time extension. Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. The first thing I'll say about this is we have to be cognizant of the fact that we are functioning in a political environment, and pretty much everything that we're doing in respect to pursuing the health service that we need and deserve in our regional community is going to involve trying to work with the politics and the politicians that are part of this process. So by definition, that means we have to work in with a lot of other people, and by definition that means that we have to work into the diaries of a lot of other people. So whilst there might be a whole lot of things in the document that we've got here tonight from around about 3 weeks ago that says we've got works in progress, a lot of those things are trying to fit into diaries with other people. So in that context, Councillor Hall mentioned that we have organised a meeting post the conversation that was had with Minister Thomas at the opening of the ED recently. We now have a meeting, she's accepted that we have a meeting in Melbourne on the 4th of June, and I'm looking forward to that conversation and that opportunity to explain and have her understand the things that we're going through and the things that we want the government to know. That's the first component of that. We've had meetings since this document was put together. We've had a meeting with the Cross-Border Commissioner. We're looking to organise a session, or the Cross-Border Commissioners are now looking to organise a session with councillors from the region. Hopefully that might happen in Canberra around about the same time as the ALGA conference. We're trying to put that in place so that we can get the Cross-Border Commissioners to understand what's going on. The other thing that we've got in train, or we've been dealing with quite thoroughly, is the politicians that we've spoken to in trying to organise meetings and deputations have almost all said to us, we need to have some level of consistency between what we say and what Albury City say. Otherwise, it's difficult for them to actually speak to us and proceed further. So in that context, we've been working very diligently with Albury City and with Mayor Kylie King to try and get to a position where we agree on what we're seeking to achieve. And I think we've got to that point, and I think in recent days a draft document has been circulated which reflects that agreement. So the agreement by and large pursues the health service that we're after. It focuses on the really important things in what the health service needs to deliver. It focuses on the resourcing and how it all fits together. It does not focus on where it will be located. That'll be determined at a future point in time. And if it turns out to be the existing site, then so be it, but I doubt that. I think the most probable thing is once the due diligence is done, it'll be a greenfield site. It could be in Albury, it could be in Wodonga. It'll be based on merit once we get to that point. The other part we're progressing is we're trying to arrange meetings with the federal relevant ministers, and there's more than one minister involved, and the two state premiers to try and get a tripartite agreement to put a set of governance rules over health services for this whole region. And we're trying to do that in the first premise based on a similar type of concept, not the same, but a similar type of concept to the tripartite agreement that might have established the Albury Wodonga Development Corporation. We think that's absolutely essential to put some strength in the local community in governance and control over the health service. And we think that's important because it softens the impact of parochialism or partisanship that might come from each of the state governments having to look after their own territory. If it's introduced with the federal government and we have tertiary education input and we have the military input as we are seeking to achieve, then the tripartite agreement makes a lot of sense. So that's where we're trying to get to with all that. Thank you. We've had quite a few conversations with local members. We've looked at a whole lot of things. We recognise that there simply isn't enough money put in the system for the process to proceed in the way that it's been put to us. So I think that's a reasonable update for the moment. There's probably a whole lot more stuff we could go on with, but that sort of covers where we've got to for the present moment. Thank you, and we move to Councillor Quilty reserved.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for the report. It is important for us to continue our advocacy for a greenfield site hospital, even if sometimes it feels like banging our heads on the brick wall. It's important to continue to receive the reports and with the steps completing, ongoing, or still in progress, not started. And of course, with the timing of the report being prepared and going to council, it is important to hear the first-hand update from the mayor to know the latest that may have missed the report cut-off date. So treating the written report together with the update from the mayor, I think that we've been doing what we can, and we will continue to do what we can. And I urge the next council to continue advocating, and I urge the Albury residents or anybody interested in the issue from Albury resident to understand and to agree with us that what they're getting is not a renovation to their hospital. What they're getting is really a drop of health services for the region. We did mention politics, however, there are issues in this world that should not be political. I read a joke the other day that thanking a politician for building a hospital or a school with your tax money is the same as thanking the ATM for giving you cash. I hope I will never have so much difficulty drawing cash from the ATM as we are having with this hospital. Sorry, yeah, too much. This is a sensitive and emotional issue. I would like to thank Better Border Health and other community representatives who are on board with us and who are helping us immensely in our advocacy. And I will just conclude by saying that we must keep going. Greenfield site is the only way to go, and the health of the community is more important than really anything else that may enter political debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cruelty. Councillor Hall to close. Okay, put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. The next item is item 8.9, Wodonga Place Space Strategy 24 to 29. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Poulton. Councillor Poulton, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Poulton.
I'm worried he's going to reserve the right and do a procedural motion. As per the recommendation, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This one's to pop our Wodonga Please Space strategy out for public exhibition for 21 days. My understanding is this has been costed in our forward budgets and what have you and our forecasts. So we're well planned for this. So whatever the community sort of throws at us in terms of feedback will be able to be considered hopefully pretty well. I might leave it there. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, I think it's, again, good work by our staff and by the people they worked with in order to put this strategy together. Hopefully we'll get a number of people giving us feedback on their opinions about how this is going to go. I urge people to look at it, read it. I think the way we handle and manage our play spaces, parks and equipment and so forth is pretty good within the constraints of obviously the budgetary matters. We have to be able to pay for what we do, but we do have a very good plan in place generally to look after this equipment and upgrade it accordingly. And I think this is a good document, and hopefully we'll get good feedback from the public about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Other councillors? Councillor Lowe.
Yeah, I think this is echo my fellow councillors' words, and I think it was a great idea to merge the two strategies together as well, the play environments of Wodonga 2014 and also Wodonga Playground Strategy. A couple of highlights. I think this is one area I think Wodonga does very well. Having a playground for children to access within 400 metres of their home. All bar one exception. We all know that exception. I won't go over old ground, but that seems to have improved now with a very good playground that's been built out in Leneva there. But what I love about these playgrounds and the spaces and that is they go to children of all ages and all different abilities. Each playground is never duplicated. They're all individual playgrounds. They work on different fine motor skills, gross motor skills. We've even got a ninja course down in Sumption Gardens now, which is aimed at the older age group, where there was a lacking of that for the kids of my age that like to climb on those things. So I'll be supporting the document, and I know one feedback that we normally get, but it's a constant improvement I've noticed around Wodonga, and that's shade in our playgrounds, and it's one that we are onto and we are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Other councillors? Councillor Hall.
having often take my grandchildren to the playgrounds in Wodonga, I'm quite experienced in the many that we have. This review was conducted for the continued strategic direction of playground infrastructure within our city. I think, as Councillor Lowe highlighted, it is important to have shade. I think we do need, I know we've got money set aside in our budget going forward to every year for shade cover for our playgrounds, and I think that is vital, especially in the heat, the summers that we have. I also think it's vital that we continue to get community feedback, because having been to other council areas and seeing the different playgrounds that different councils provide their community, some of them are really good. And, you know, if you can get some great ideas and bring them back, I think it's brilliant if we can implement some of those here in Wodonga. And I made a suggestion on one, and it did actually, eventually one item got put into the playground, and I was very happy and impressed by that, because I remember seeing it at another council playground, and it was just all the kids wanted to hop on it. So so the feedback is vital, and I hope the community continue to provide us with that, because it is vital infrastructure for our kids to get out there and be moving and, you know, get exercise. So yes, thank you. We do a good job of it.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do expect us to receive a lot of feedback from the community on this policy, because Wodonga is a very family-oriented city, and there are a lot of playground experts in the city and in this room. And we can safely say that we have sampled collectively, with not together, but with our families, a lot of playgrounds, and it's great to have a sunshade, good playing equipment. Various areas, of course, have various requirements for playing equipment, sometimes smaller, sometimes bigger, sometimes with more vegetation, sometimes just a small one. It's always good to have a water fountain at the playground, and there are lots of great ideas at various playgrounds, and it's good to have all abilities and all age playgrounds. And yeah, sometimes there are problems with the shade. Some playgrounds provide the shade that works in the morning but not in the afternoon, or vice versa. You can't win, but I believe it's a good strategy. It ticks as many boxes as we possibly can, and I encourage people on the ground to tell the council what else we can improve. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Just briefly, if ever we needed an indication to show how valuable and how well loved our parks and play spaces are, I was present at Sumption Gardens for a consultation program on Mother's Day, and there was basically no more spare space in the place for people having picnics, using the pizza oven, doing other bits and pieces that were going on, and kids having a great time in that extraordinarily good play space that we've got, or number of play spaces that we've got down there. That's a very clear indication of how important, and as Councillor Lowe said, how well we do our city parks. We just need to keep that standard going. Councillor Poulton to close.
It won't hold you too long, councillors. Just look forward to the community's feedback, and just a point of noting that we've come a long way since the old concrete stormwater pipes I used to play on as a kid, Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. Put the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. I put that motion. All those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. The next item is item 9, reports for noting, of which there are none. Item 10, reports for information. 10.1 is record of councillor meetings. Anybody wish to raise any matters out of the record? No. Moving on to 10.2, the decision register. Any matters to be raised? No. Moving on to 10.3, the council plan progress. Any comments? Councillor Chamberlain?
Yeah, just a quick comment, just to say, obviously the council plan has been put under some stress with our council restructure, but again, as per usual, our staff are rising to the occasion, and we've got pretty good progress on this council plan, and we wish to continue that going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Next item is item 11, notices of a motion, of which there are none. Is there any general business? Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, I just want to note I had the pleasure, or should I say dubious pleasure, of attending the MAV conference in Melbourne. It was an interesting exercise, I think well worthwhile to go and see how things work down there from my perspective. I thank the CEO and so forth for suggesting that it might be worthwhile for my experience to attend. The one real recommendation I can get out of the attendance there is don't try the muffins. No, it is an eye-opener, and to be perfectly honest, I was in disbelief to see some of the things that came up and were discussed and were in fact moved. I was also amused or bemused by the fact that on one motion that was accepted with a percentage of something like 58% on the initial vote, when a division was called, which means people would be able to see who voted where, it suddenly got rejected on the same sort of amount. So there are some people out there who are in the democracy business in councils around the state who appear to be happy to vote one way while no one's watching. But if it comes down to someone needs to see who's voting where, they completely backpedal and go the other way, and I think that's a bit distressing. And it was certainly, from my perspective, a bit disenchanting to see that people's representatives did that sort of thing. It's a bit disingenuous. But having said that, overall, as per usual, I believe in most of these things, it was a good opportunity to meet with people, talk with people. I spoke to a number of people from surrounding councils on a number of issues, the hospital being one, and that discussion in itself was worth the time we spent down there. So it was an interesting exercise, and thanks for the opportunity for doing it.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. I think I can just say ditto. I think there will come a point in time, probably not with this council, but I think there will come a point in time where we will reconsider the value in membership of the MAV, particularly given the way that the organisation seems to be significantly influenced, shall I say, by the inner city or the city councils at somewhat a different ratio of votes, I think, to what the rural councils get, and the gap between the philosophies and structures and belief systems between the non-metropolitan and the metropolitan councils seems to be getting wider and wider every time I become connected or associated with any of these events. Some of the things that were put up on this occasion, and I will circulate the minutes when we get the formal minutes available, but some of the things that were put up for consideration, some of the debate that was had is just extraordinary, and I don't see how it values local government particularly well at all. Anyway, that is something for a future time to be considered, I would suggest, and I think there's a number of other regional councils that have expressed that same view privately on the side of the conference on Friday. So it'll be interesting to watch the space and see where it goes, probably for the new council. Any other general business, councillors? No urgent late business? The next item on the agenda is confidential business, item 14. Do I have a motion to go into confidential? Councillor Poulton? Councillor Hall?
Sorry.
She was? It doesn't matter. Put your hand up. I put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Can I have a motion to extend, please? Councillor Poulton, seconder, please. Councillor Chamberlain, put the motion, 15 minutes. Put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Okay. Can I have a motion to adopt the in-camera recommendations, please? Councillor Hall, Councillor Chamberlain. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Mr. CEO, would you care to read the in-public resolutions?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In relation to item 14.2, proposed land sale at Logic Industrial Estate Transport Operator, the public component of Council's resolution is that Council endorse its previous resolution of the 19th of February 2024. In regards to item 14.3, the proposed land sale at Logic Industrial Estate Advanced Resource Recovery Centre, the public component of the resolution reads that subject to a heads of agreement being entered into and generally in accordance with the key terms of the Wodonga Council gives notice under section 114 of the Local Government Act 2020 that intends to sell land described as 2 hectare land parcel of Lot B, PS 726960, located adjacent to the west of 79 Roche Drive, Barnawartha North, Logic, in the sum of $1.4 million, exclusive of GST. 2, that the public notice stipulates that the persons may make a submission in respect to the proposal in accordance with the Council's community engagement policy, and that written submissions must be received no later than the date that is at least 21 days after the publication of the public notice. And 3, the Council receives a further report upon completion of the public consultation period to determine whether to proceed with the sale or not. In regards to the urgent late item of Council business, the public component of the resolution, so I'll just read the title. So it is 15.1, proposed, 15.1, development of CBD West, proposed amendments to the clauses within the 1 Section 7.3 agreement. The public component of the resolution is that Council authorises the Chief Executive Officer to suitably amend the relevant clauses within the 173 agreement for 41 to 43 Eldrin Boulevard and 26 Stanley Street to extend the time frames for substantial commencement and practical completion of the project by 12 months and the time frames for retransfer rights for substantial commencement and practical completion of the project by 12 months. 2, Council authorises the CEO to suitably amend the definition of the planning permit within the 173 agreement for 41 to 43 Eldrin Boulevard and 26 Stanley Street to facilitate an amended or alternative planning for a comprehensive development agreeable to the landowner and council in its capacity as former owner. And 3, Council subject to reaching agreement with Integer Securities Limited and to enter new agreements pursuant to Section 173 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987 to be registered on title at 41 to 43 Eldrin Boulevard, and once done, then remove the current Section 173 agreement from the title and amend the draft Section 173 agreement for 26 Stanley Street, Wodonga. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. There being no further business at the council meeting, I declare the meeting closed at 9:44.